Well, hello and welcome to the Worldwide Slot Car Chat number 157 already. Oh my goodness, how time flies. Who do we have? We have Dewan and Jeremy and Phil and Don and Jim and Wayne and Garth and Chris. Well, most of the gang is here, so I guess we're here to talk about slot cars, and we usually start off with show and tell. So does anyone have anything to show and tell or talk about? Anyone? No hands up. Oh my gosh. Oh, here we go. Don. Yay, Don. Let's see what you got.
Well, I got all excited about getting a car, and it finally came in. And it's a nice, beautiful little car.
Nice. And now is that Carrera?
No, it's SCX.
Oh, SCX. Wow. So then it has steerable front wheels then?
No. The big
Oh, no, okay.
problem that I had with it is it's supposed to be 132nd and it's 143rd.
Oh,
But it's still a very nice car. I was really surprised at how well detailed it is for the scale. They're usually not this detailed. And it
that is
runs
nice.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was 132nd as well. I've had a few of those old like Scalextric ones, and they're so small and tiny anyway, so it tricks the eye when you held it up there.
But it's a nice running car. And then I got mine.
Oh, you got your Shadow. Nice. How do you like it? What do you think of it?
Well, I've only run it on the oval track. Chipping it might be challenging if I ever decide to do that, but I don't know, since it's such a limited release car to begin with, it may end up just sitting on the shelf, but especially since I don't have anybody to race against anyway. So once I run it around the track a few times, that's pretty much it for me.
Nice. And did it run fairly well?
Oh yes, it's pretty much what everybody says it is. It's a nice, smooth running car.
Does anyone know, is MR Slot Car, are they making a companion car to go with that, or is that just going to be biased and that's it?
I
Yes.
don't know. Chris would know.
There we go.
Chris knows?
Chris just answered yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Jack-
okay.
The Jackie Oliver car will be out.
Okay, the companion. Okay, so great. That was 102?
101.
Okay, all right. Excellent, excellent. Well, that's gonna be nice. Oh, and these won't be part of the classic cars that's gonna be used at the Electric Dream, will it? This
No.
won't be. No, okay.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Mike had a nice video on running it against a couple of Revo slots.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
Out.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not here.
And he's got it chipped. So I know it's possible, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy.
Well, yeah, and the way he showed that last week too, and it looked like he kept a lot of the interior when he put his chip in as well. He did a fairly good job.
Well, if you go with one of the MPL chips, or you probably be able to do it okay if you're trying to chip it for a Carrera, but I don't see you getting the Carrera chip in there at all. It's just way too big.
Huh.
But
Cool.
the MPL, you can run a remote LED with it, and then you can put the chip anywhere you want. So
Okay.
once you get it all wired up, it's pretty easy to use, but it's getting all the wiring in place that is difficult, especially on the unsoldered chips. But that's all I got.
Cool.
Dewan, do you have anything?
No, not really. Just assembling some cars, doing some maintenance on some cars, and that's pretty boring stuff. But I was curious, Chris, you're not at liberty to give us any kind of insight on how singles
Sorry,
okay.
what's your question?
Oh, when they might be releasing the next version of the Shadow.
Oh, it's not gonna be out for a few months anyway.
Okay, all right. Cool. Well, it's nice to know they're gonna have it. Cool.
Supposed to
We've
be a
been-
white kit come out too, isn't there? Or a kit.
Sorry?
A white kid
There's
is gonna
supposed to
come.
be a kit that comes out also
kit.
with the next release, as I
Oh, well,
understand it.
That's news to me.
Yeah, I think Dave Kennedy or I thought it was Dave that mentioned
Yeah, I
that.
think that's who I heard it also.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
the white kits have been seen on some websites. That doesn't mean they're real, but it's out there.
okay.
Well, the white kits aren't actually white kits. Those are the pre-prototype resin builds from our manufacturer.
Okay.
I'm in the shop every day and talk to Ernie every single day and have for the last 40 years. I'm maybe the white kits are coming, but if Dave Kennedy says they're coming, it's
Well, I have no idea who he talked to, so.
Yeah, I thought he said he got the exclusive from but I guess we might be off on that. Well, that's not
We've
spreading
been-
bad rumors.
I've been building a lot of them and sending them. Actually, I've got a for anyone who's interested. Where is it? Here's one. This one, I will ask Dennis. Do you know
Probably not.
Pierre Bartham, Dennis?
Yeah, bathroom.
He's a South African who's now living in Australia.
Okay, the name sounds very slightly familiar.
Okay,
But only slightly.
yeah, his daughter was is working in Toronto, and he was just up to see her.
Uh-huh.
He dropped into the shop and drove a couple of these that I built up, and he asked me to build one. So this is the one I built for him. So we've done a bunch now, and we're learning little tips and tricks and stuff. So this seems to be a pretty good wood setup for the way this one. This has got G25 tires on the end. I changed the spur and added a bit of weight and put some silicone washers and stuff, and it goes really, really well.
What size of G25s? The
So the 10
1315 or 1317 or whatever the number is.
yeah, whatever.
10, I think.
These are the 10 point something millimeter wide ones, 20 point.
Okay.
By the time you cut them down, they're obviously less than that.
On the stock rim.
No, these are on the Ernie's air rims with foam inserts in them.
Okay. Yeah, mine's sitting in the garage waiting for me to get well enough to go out there again.
Yeah. Well, I've probably done a dozen of them so far for different folks. And while I've got you guys online, while I'm here, I have an auction car going on Home Racing World.
So that
Mhm.
Oh, yeah,
That's good.
that was the fly that you were working on, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, I built sort of a little more involved fly car but it's still using stock parts. This was a brand new fly David Piper 917 that I've had sitting there for years and years and years and never done anything with it. So I decided I built it up, and basically it's on HRW for auction with all the proceeds going to Home Racing World. This is just a As far as fly cars go, this is absolutely wonderful. It's all been jig built. All kinds of neat things done to it. So if anyone is remotely interested, it is up for sale.
What body goes on this?
Sorry,
917,
I'll show
the
you that.
green 917.
Yeah, I've got it. I've done a little bit of work to that. I've done some shut lines and a few other little things on it.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a brand new body. It's been polished. The interior's all been taken apart and proper seat belts and glove colors and detail painting and shut lines and all put back together, and it runs as good as any fly car I've ever seen. So anyway,
And the gears look not fly as well.
no, everything, the bushings, axles, wheels, tires, gears, guide, everything's been replaced.
So you've
But
changed
like
the
that-
fly. Oh, sorry.
Like that old Woodman's axe of yours, you. Still the same axe, but it's had 3 handles and 5 heads by now.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say from a fly to a mosquito.
Yeah,
That looks really good, though.
that's pretty car. It seems to be generating some interest too. 'Cause it's up in the $130 or $150 range right now, if I recall.
135 or something like that, I
Yeah.
think.
Go inflation. That's awesome.
Well, if you
Oh.
figure out the price of a fly car and then you take $60 in parts and, a few bucks to build the thing, $140 is still cheap.
No,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, yeah. And it has the Walker spice all over it. It's awesome.
There you go.
When's
The
the
fairy
auction
dust.
open? When does the auction conclude?
Sunday, May 7th, Sunday, end of the day.
Sure.
I don't really know what end of the day means, but before I go to bed, I'll go on and say who's won at the end of the day on Sunday.
Cool. That's great.
Oh, Chris, I forgot that. Was that like an actual built fly car, or was it one of those?
No, that was a ready to run. Well, if any fly is ready to run, but that was classified as a ready to run. It had never been run. And then it was completely dismantled. I had to do it was all, unlike most flies, this was all done on a jig, including the axle tube.
So did you glue the pod to the chassis then, or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, well done. Well done.
Well, I've been gluing fly pods into fly chassis for 20 years. Runs great.
Wow. Although, when you sort of run fly against fly, it can be fun, but fly against
Oh,
humans,
yeah.
it's a bit of a challenge. Yeah.
Well, it depends who builds the fly. You can build fly cars to go very, very well indeed.
Oh, yeah. We used to have a lot of fun running fly cars in Far Out Club at one stage too,
Right.
years back. And basically all we were allowed to do was pop a pair of indie grips on them.
Right.
We put a pair of indie grips on them and take the magnet out and go race it. And we had a lot of fun with those cars.
That's what I'm working on this week. That's part of what I'm doing, putting 2 fly cars together, piecing them together for a Far Out race this weekend.
And you know what? To their credit, they really helped rejuvenate the hobby. I mean, I remember the Viper when it first came out. It was like I thought it was a die cast. I was like, this is a slot car.
Fly basically single-handedly rejuvenated the hobby.
No, I agree. Yeah. Cool. Phil, you have stuff to show.
Yeah, it sort of follows on a little bit from Chris's talking about flies. We've been running the Fly Classics as a class for 20 odd years. And over the years, we've allowed them to develop a little bit. With first thing we allowed was allowing aluminium wheels and upgrade the rear end to decent gearing and wheels. More recent years, we upgraded the motors to a SC 0008 motor, and we've been running them for 6 years, I think. But this year, the organiser, Dave Bandoff, decided he'd open the class up a little bit and allow some of the newer cars in with the pods in them, because we've just run them as basic fly cars. So a lot of the guys sort of had a bit of a moan and said, well, I don't want to buy a new car. I've got these beautiful bodies I want to run. So I had a look around on things in Verse, and I found some printed chassis that took a slotted pod. So I've played around with it a fair bit on Tinkercad, and I've produced some chassis. This one's for a Lola Mark III, which comes up. So the guys, a couple of the guys have taken them and setting them up with that. So I've done the Ferrari was the original one I found. So I've done the Lola, and I've done one for the Porsche as well. And the organiser of this series, Dave Bandoff, put a limit on the guide length so that we didn't have one or two dominant cars in it. So I wanted to run a Mark IV forward. Well, the NSR body, of course, is quite reasonable and not too bad, but the guide length on the NSR chassis fitted outside his specs. So this is another one I did for the Mark IV Ford. And that one's roughly set up at the moment. It's just in a trial situation. And I've painted up a white Mark IV white kit to go on it. And it goes reasonably well. It's quite competitive there. So we'll have about 5 or 6 guys running printed chassis this year. How they'll compete against the Thunder slot, I don't know. And Dave's allowed the Thunder slot and the other potted cars to run in with these, but with the same limitations with the motors in them. So that's what we'll be running in probably 8 or 10 weeks' time. So we're all getting them ready. So I just thought someone might be interested to have a look. That's all.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a great way to bring back your old cars that you may have not touched for a while too.
Well, it is. They're, you know, some of the chassis are getting almost impossible to get now, and they're starting to fatigue a little bit over the years. I mean, to run a class for 20 years virtually with no alterations on the chassis has been great. So we've had value out of them, but most of the bodies have stood up pretty well. I think one of the guys with a 512 had a bit of a off and damaged the body, but the rest are still all intact after 20 years, which is great. We'll look forward to running that, and it sort of opens it up a little bit. It's good. And it's been an interesting project, being able to do that on Tinkercad and knock them out in PETG. They seem to be standing up pretty well.
Did you upload that file to Thingiverse then, Phil? Is it up there?
I haven't.
People can...
I haven't as yet, Jeremy, but I will. I'll put the Lola and the Mark IV forward up for sure. I think the Porsche and Ferrari are already up there.
Well,
we can share it around.
As was pointed out to me, Phil, those cars are technically vintage now.
They are. I mean, they're great, but they're still good bodies.
No, that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That's all. Thank you.
Ah, excellent. Does anyone else have anything to show and to tell? Ooh, no, really? That's it? Anybody? Well, okay. I took a trip to our local hobby store on behalf of someone that I thought was expecting to be here this week, but Mr. Purplewalt, because he was talking about kits that we had at our hobby store that he couldn't get. And I found something that has, I haven't got enough stuff, but I'm sure you guys have seen this kit already, the 1/32 scale Opel GT. No? Oh my gosh. Okay. It's actually not a bad little kit. It looks like it was actually designed in my, I think everything's designed for a slot car, but it looks like it was designed for a slot car because it's got a really cool little one-piece body. And I think, I'll just take it out of the box for you. I haven't taken this out yet. First of all, I couldn't resist the price. I mean, it was actually 15 whole Canadian dollars. Takes a lot of beavers to make that, let me tell you. And
where did you get it, John?
at Panther Hobbies in Mississauga.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, you know, which is what, that's what, like $3 American or something, right? What is that, what is? Yeah, something like that. But
That kit's probably new for that in Minnetonka. That's probably 1973 is still there.
yeah, no kidding. But it's got a nice one-piece body. And the thing that really impressed me for slot car use is that the door handles are molded in, as are the rear lights. So there's very little that can be broken off. So I didn't know if you folks, I've seen it sort of online, but as soon as I saw it on a shelf, I had to pick it up. But it'd make a nice little car. Now, of course, they race them with really wide fenders, but I thought of making some sort of road car with this.
Those Revels all orange, John?
I beg your pardon, sorry?
Are they all orange? They're 32 scale plastic kits.
Yeah, you know what? I guess it was whatever was in the hopper, Wayne. So they probably are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Everyone I've seen has been orange.
Yeah, and even the Porsche that I used to make
Yeah.
Greg's car, yeah, it was orange as well. Yeah, and to your point, it's Revell Europe. It's not made in the States. Hang on, that's right. Because it has all the wonderful sort of European, I guess, codes for levels and yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, and it has license plates from right across Europe. But luckily, it's a left-hand drive. So there you go. So that's kind of my show and tell, and I'm sure this will be on my shelf for the next decade.
I'm just come across something else which you guys might like to see. I'm sitting here while I'm talking to you guys and painting some little figures that I've printed out. And I was wondering whether you can see these two guys and whether they remind you of some of our people on the chat.
Oh, look at that! It's Mike. It's Mike.
It's Mike.
What do you reckon?
Wow.
Who's the other one? Oh, it's Don.
Oh, Don and Mike. There you go. Yeah.
It's Don.
Yeah. Yeah. I just come across them as I'm going through the pile of figures and I thought, well, they looked a bit familiar.
Oh, now you've got me going. Maybe it's time to sculpt some popular figures from our chat. There's another project to put on the list.
I can't find you here, John, among this pile.
No. Unless you've got somebody holding a hockey stick.
I don't think
Well,
you
I've
need to
come
sculpt
across
the
one
guys
of
from
them.
sculpting the guys from the chat will take too much resin by the time you're done.
Oh, I can always narrow them down a bit, Dennis.
Just
That's
do what
awesome.
you can see on the TV, just from the head up. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah,
Chris would be really easy. It's just a blank card with his name on it.
The mystery man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, thanks so much, Phil. Michael, do you have
That's
something
all
to
right.
go?
Oh, of course. I have.
Mike's been buying again.
Oh, another one.
Yep, another one. It's been raced. It finished second in its first race by a very small margin. So,
Racing against
and
what?
it was racing against Thunderslot McLaren's.
Mm.
So it did a good job. It was about a 10th behind them. I changed the tires and to the G25s that I normally use, and a little bit of weight in the front end. And man, it really came down there quickly. I was pretty impressed. There's no other tuning. I didn't even get the chance to true the tires up, and it still did pretty well. I was pretty surprised.
Tiny bit
Led
of pod
the
float, a
race
little bit
for
of
quite a
body
while.
motion,
Pardon me?
a tiny bit of pod float and a bit of body
Yeah.
float. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm gonna probably do the same as I've done with my other MR slot cars and do the suspension on it. But yeah, it's got a nice tractable motor on it, and seems to run really, really well. And of course, the body is fantastic. The only criticism I would say is I would like to have the cutouts in the front, on the above the front wheel wells.
Yeah.
But I could always do that if I want to take the chance. My modeling ability is subpar, so,
You chipped it, right, Mike?
pardon me?
You chipped
I
it.
chipped it? Yes, it's chipped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some people.
Yeah, the
might-
video's up on the channel.
Oh, okay.
I did watch that. Yeah. And it's great. Basically it's your car's out of the box, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think 3 grams of weight in the front end. Well, essentially what I did is I checked the 4F weight balance and it was a little bit light on the front end. So I put 3 grams of weight in tungsten up in front, and it handles really well. But even without the weight in the front, it ran surprisingly well. Didn't lift the front end out, didn't cause any problems at all, and handled really, really well. I was pretty impressed with it. Much better than the earlier MR slot cars that I had. So yeah, I was very happy with it. It's worth $100, I think. Or the 101 actually, which I thought was ironic that it was that price, since that's the number on the
Yeah.
on the ones that they have at Road America. 101 and 102, I think, are their numbers.
So what you're saying is that the next release will be $1 more. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. No, but it's a great car. I could see it as a good basis for most other cars, and I think probably I can, tune it a little bit better. I still got stock gearing, and I can see there's a little bit where the tires aren't hitting completely. So, but yeah, it was pretty nice. I just set the tires down on a piece of sandpaper on a track, did it old school simple, and that was it, and ran it. And for out of the box, I'm pretty impressed.
You did take the magnet out, right?
Dennis, please.
Okay, just checking,
Yeah, right.
I forgot.
I didn't run magnet cars against non-mag.
Are they
Well,
all,
you got-
are they all
The
going in
Thunder
one
Slots are
car?
pretty
Mike?
quick on my track, so I was pretty impressed.
You've got enough magnets there to throw the earth off its axis.
Well, you got to realize that I spent a lot of time tuning with magnets for many years before I eschewed them, and so I wish I had all the bucks back that I spent for them, but it was a learning process, so that's always expensive.
That's okay. You had fun doing it though, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I still look at that video that Greg did with the two of us chasing
Yeah.
cars. That was, they were so fast. They're almost half or twice the speed of my mag car's best, or magless car's best.
Wow.
Yeah, the average with this Thunder Slots is around 7.3, 7.4, and we were doing 4.2s. So they were just rockets. I mean, and they do take some driving, as you could see. That it isn't just hold it down. Although the Chaparral that I had, which was this one, the slotted one, that was my fastest mag car.
I
That's the
noticed
one that Greg used.
it's missing its wing. Is that on
Of
purpose?
course, it's you don't want those for the high center of gravity. Forget it. Wings don't work on slot cars.
Yeah, a well-known fact.
Yeah, they do work on big track,
Wing cars.
long straightaway cars.
Wing cars, yeah. That's
Yeah,
what
they-
Well, no, I don't.
They
mean that,
don't,
but
actually,
even
they
on our
don't work there
work
either,
cars,
because
it's a huge difference.
but what a 124 scale wing car is using and what those things are using are not aerodynamics in the first place.
No.
You're not getting any downforce by creating pressure differentials on one side of the aerofoil to the other side. With a slot car, you're getting downforce by deflecting the angle at which the air flows over the body.
Or the body.
And it's that deflection and the change of direction that produces the reaction that gives you the downforce. Because if you try to create the downforce by means of Bernoulli pressure differentials, you need to be running in water. You can't run in air, because the thing is, the car is so small that the density of the air is completely wrong.
Is insufficient, yeah.
You know, if you were, for example, wanting to do some wind tunnel testing of a slot car, you would have to really run the model in a stream pool of water, and that would give you a better idea of what's going to happen, because it's much slower speeds, and of course you've got the
There's a guy on-
equivalency numbers that are involved there are quite big. The Reynolds numbers, and it's a long
Yeah,
time since I did that stuff.
There's a channel on YouTube where a guy started to do exactly that, but it wasn't slot cars. He used die casts of real cars. And one in particular that I remember was the Jag E-Type. And the issue with the Jag E-Type was the steepness of the windscreen. I'm sure some of you will know about that.
Mhm.
It was aerodynamically very unstable because its bonnet was long and its windscreen steep.
Yeah.
But he did it with bubbles in the water flow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting to watch. Unfortunately, he stopped. I think he took a different job, and he got about half a dozen to probably 10 different models in his water flow system, and stopped. But he did use he did relate it to full size vehicles as much as possible, even though they were only scale models. They were accurate enough to give you an inkling of the nature of the full size vehicles. And then he molded wings on some of them, splitters, and boot lid, duck wings, things like that. Interesting channel. Can't remember what it was called right now.
It's like those adverts that you just love, but you can't remember the products.
They work well.
Or the ones that you hate and you never forget the product.
That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Oh, Jim, you have to stop the show.
This is kind of, I guess we're getting towards the end of show and tell. So this is kind of half and half, show and tell and Club Corner.
That's a perfect transition.
And if you saw my YouTube channel, I did a video last week or so on the Shadow. And you know, I don't think you were here last week, Chris, but I did a video on this and talked a little bit about the car and some of the differences, you know, some of the highlights and the features and so forth. So this week, I'm going to talk about what I did to it, because I built this car to run in the Can-Am class in Northern California, which required or has a 25,000 K motor limit. So I put a Predator in it. You can see my weighting is somewhat similar to Chris's. I probably got 6 or 7 grams in front of the motor and a couple grams in front, closer to the guide. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can see them there. I am doing a video on this for the YouTube channel where I'm going to go through each one individually. But the real basis is putting some more power in it, because we can definitely use it even on a small track here in Northern California. So I put the 25K Predator in it. I don't think on this track it would have gone much slower with the stock motor, but I had the 25K, so I threw it in, and you never have enough power. So I did that anyway. The other thing that I wanted to talk about specifically that I did is I changed the gears, and I went to a 12-tooth slotting plus gear and a 31-tooth angle winder NSR gear, because it's smaller diameter, and I needed the smaller diameter to run the car as low as I can get it. The stock gear, I think, is an 18 millimeter, if I'm not mistaken, and it sits below the chassis a little bit. And the first time I ran the car with the tires I had, it actually it was dragging a little bit on the track. So I went to a smaller diameter gear, which is, this is 16.8.
Does
It
that
doesn't
gear mesh work for you? Because it looks
It-
quite loose.
It doesn't mesh perfectly, but it's the closest I had. So I'm either gonna have to get a 17 millimeter spur gear or a little bit larger than 7.5 pinion gear. It meshed okay. It meshed okay. It wasn't great. Didn't sound like an egg beater, but it didn't sound really quiet either. So, but like I said, it was all I had, and I definitely wanted to be able to drop the car down to our 32,000 ride height limit. And I did that with the tires and wheels basically off my GT3 car. They're NSR wheels, NSR tires, Ultra Grips, Evo, that seem to be working really good for me. There's some stuff on some of the forums that people are still having trouble with Evos, but I've not had that. You saw the lead front and back. Front tires glued and true. I did put some tape on the motor pod to dampen the movement just a little bit. So that's basically what I did to it, which is in essence, that's what I do to a Thunderslot car. So I built it with all the modifications I would do to a Thunderslot car, just to see how it would go. And normally when I go to a race, if I've got 2 or 3 cars for the class, I run the fastest car. This time I wanted to run the Shadow. I didn't care. Yeah, I drove it beforehand. It ran good. Like I said, I built this very similar to the Thunderslot, and there was 14 guys at this race. 12 of them were Thunderslots. One of them was a borrowed Carrera, and one MR slot car Shadow. And so it ran really good. And it was about 1/10 slower than the fastest Thunderslot, which was Ian's down there in 9th place, but he had an issue with the pinion gear. So he most likely would have won the race, but I beat the other 11 Thunderslot cars and ran just as fast. My fastest lap time was 4.12 and Ian's was 4.05 or 6 or somewhere around there. So I was less than 1/10 off the fastest Thunderslot right out of the box. The gear ratio I had wasn't right. I would have liked to have a little bit taller gear ratio, and the mesh, like I said, wasn't perfect. But at the end of the day, it's in the winner's circle. The car runs really good. It's extremely stable around the faster corners, even on this smaller track. There are some sweepers. So I'm really looking for, I wish I could run it more. This is the last of our 4-race Can-Am series, so I won't have a place to race it for a while. But the car, first time out of the box, tuning it, a little bit of practice, a little bit of testing. It ran really good. I was going to this race hoping for a top 5 and a little bit of racing luck. We got a victory. So I would have been ecstatic with a podium, but it got even better. So does the Shadow work? It's definitely a winner. It's a really good car. There's no question about what it looks like, but it runs
Just good.
is it as fast as a Thunderslot? It's right in there. And so
Yeah.
we could debate that all day, but it's a really good car. So
Yeah, I agree.
What's the grip
That's,
nature of that Silicon Ridge Speedway?
that's it for me. The unshare. So yeah, the car is great. And I'm looking forward to running it again when we run the Can-Am class. The Can-Am class now in Northern California, I found out later I was wrong in the 25K. We can go up as high as we want to go. Thunderslot cars that I have on these small tracks, I feel like 25K is more than enough. They work good with 25K, but it kind of feels like we're at the end of what that chassis can handle. But I think it's the car's so small. I wanted more power with the MR slot car with the Shadow. And so I'll probably put a 28 or a 30 in and see what happens. And so,
Jim, what did you say your ground clearance was?
well, our limit, our minimum is 32,000. So that's what I was trying to get it to. So it was
Yeah.
around, I was around 32 to 40. But with the stock gear, I couldn't get it that low because the gear would hit the
Right.
track first. So with the tire size I want to run.
So
So
that's
I've-
just about 1 millimeter.
1 millimeter is about 38 or 39 to put,
Yeah.
doing the math. So it's a little bit less than 1 millimeter. So anyway,
What-
that's my experience with the Shadow, from getting it to tuning it and to running it.
When you drive it, Jim, can you feel the weight of that wing?
No,
Okay, that's interesting because
because the body is only 17.9 grams. And I think given how big that wing actually is, it's pretty light. what I would love to see is somebody come out with a Lexan wing that mimics the actual wing close enough that you could put it on the wing mount that comes with the car, just pull the wing off, put a Lexan wing on, probably save a gram or two. And that would help a little bit. I would think that in clubs that allow this car, well, obviously you allow it in Can-Am, but to give it that advantage of taking a little bit of that weight off the wing would help a little bit. But I mean, proof's in the pudding. The car ran great. It was within a tenth of the fastest, and Ian's car is well developed. And this was the first time out with this car, and so I was very happy with it.
So
I think it would run extremely well on Electric Dreams with a bigger radius, constant radius corners, because it's about 5 millimeters, I think, longer in the guide lead. And
And
so
it has a pod that rotates, not tilts.
yeah, the pod, I talked about that in my video, and the car just felt really planted around those well, on this track, the large radius sweeper, which is not very large because it's a garage track.
Right.
But the car just felt really planted. And so,
What's interesting to me, Jim, is that your thunder slots and your shadow, I take it your shadow has a relatively flexible chassis base plate, a bit like a thunder slot. Would that be true?
no, I don't think so. I think it's just as stiff as anything out there right now.
Is
much-
it?
Just by
Much-
feeling it with my hands. Just by feeling it with my hands, I think it's pretty stiff.
It's much stiffer than any thunder slot.
Okay, so you usually build your cars on stiff chassis. If you get an NSR to build, you'll go and buy a green. Is that the one?
We have not been
Sorry.
using the green chassis because we've been having breakage issues with them. They've been cracking. And so most people up here where the class allows it, we've been running the white chassis.
And yet you can get your thunder slot chassis to go just real good
My
as well.
Thunder Slot chassis has a stiff chassis on it, but there is no option that I know of for the Shadow. And like Chris said, I think it's stiffer than this even. Probably
Oh,
the stiff
sorry, I
Thunder Slot.
thought I was working under the impression that thunder slots were generally soft.
No,
Okay.
I'm just going by just feeling with my hands and no, and Chris may have better information.
The thunder slots, yes, are soft chassis. The shadow chassis is considerably stiffer than the thunder slots and most of the NSR chassis.
Very cool. Well, then that migrates us to Club Corner. Does anyone else have anything to report on for Club Corner? Michael?
Yeah, I was trying to raise my hand in between.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I sort of gave my info on the Shadow already. That's one of mine. Unfortunately, I had a video issue. We did some 50 sports cars. The three of us did. We had a D Jaguar that was a front engine Scalextrics, and we had a Mercedes 300 SL, which is a front side mounted. It's actually an offset to one side, driver's side mounted. And then we had a Maserati A6 GS Carrera. Those three cars, and the Carrera kicked ass. It had too much motor. There was much carnage on that class, let me tell you, even with motors that weren't all that great. But the chassis are pretty dismal in those older Scalextrics and Carrera cars. Although I have to say that the Carrera car that I had, I think I showed, I don't know, last week or one of the other weeks, that I mounted some set screws in up front to limit the front axle movement up and down. And that was a huge difference. But I'm gonna have to do some motor parity, I think, in order to bring them in and maybe get the other two up to snuff and see what happens. I may have to do some major surgery because the front motors on those things are just, oh my God, they're pretty terrible. But and skinny tires too. So, but they're fun, good fun.
Yeah.
And then the other race that we had was the Shadow, and as I said, it took second place in between two thunder slots. And it was, I had the lead for quite a while, but I blew it with damage points on the last one. I ran out of damage points 3 laps from the end, and that was the end of it. Because it's 12 seconds to get rid of the damage points once you run out. And you get a damage point for each time you go off. So it was, but yeah, good fun. I raced last night, 124 scale. It wasn't my best night, but I did the proverbial choke for the first. We did 2 sets of 4 lanes each because we only had 9 guys, and if we ran all 9 of them, we wouldn't have marshals. So we split it and ran 4 lanes with a whole bunch round robin, and then ran the other 4 lanes in the second race. And I choked pretty badly. I had the lead with the first 2 in the second heat, and then Shiggy told me that, and of course I promptly fell apart. So ended up 5th, but had fun anyway. It was okay. I did have to tell myself though, it's only toy cars. Gets too serious in 124th.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's
They
awesome.
were only toy cars till you pull the trigger.
That's true enough. That's true enough.
I have a T-shirt somewhere that says that.
I got that from Electric Dreams, yep.
I think originally the first ones came from not Slot Car Corner, but from Shoreline Model Raceways, the Shoreline Club up in Connecticut.
Well, maybe that was it.
That sounds like a t-shirt you wouldn't want to wear in Texas, though.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Mike. And Dewan, you
Okay.
have a club corner?
Yeah, I'll just give you a really brief update because of the embarrassment that's associated with it. But yeah, we participated in the 3rd week in a row. Let's see if I can get this going here. 3rd week in a row, we had a Far Out Club race, and pretty nice. We went over to Jim's place in Claremont. This is called Claremont Raceway. I'm assuming you can see it. Are you seeing?
Yeah, that's quite a bank. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
that's what I was going to say. It's a very, very nice track. I'm surprised. Well, Jim has shown holding back the ability to showcase this track or to take pictures at his track. Let's put it that way. And I was kind of surprised they had to actually have this posted. So since it's already posted on the internet, I figured it was fair game for me to post it on our chat. So. I wanted to take a picture of it the first time I was there, but it's it's a 3-lane routed track, and it's got a nice sizable banked setting, and it's really really nice, and this gives you a better perspective of it. That's the owner, Jim. Yeah, so this is some of the guys from the club. We had 18 racers for 2 heats, for two races rather. And the first race was the Sideways GT. So he's right here.
I was going to say, Dawn, I like his vintage artwork on the walls there.
That's nice. Yes, he has a lot of very vintage things. Period. Even his scenery. So yeah, we did
the whole track is in a little separated building at the back of his house.
Yes, great little shed.
It's just the track. It's the track room. That's it.
Yes,
it's really nice.
Really nice. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
how long is the track? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
No, it's around the 48 to 50 feet, I would think. It's quite short.
Yeah, it's about And another unique thing about it is it does have a Le Mans start, which is kind of intimidating if you don't, because the thing about it, you practice, they let you, you get an hour or so practicing before, but no practice includes the Le Mans start. So when you when you get to the actual race and they put everything positioned for the Le Mans start, I think more than half of each one of the heats, the first round, people will crash because coming out of that.
Well, the good news is they don't make you run to grab your controller, do they?
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Yeah, quite. So anyway, it's a really nice playing track, and let's give you another better perspective of it. You see the sweeping bank up there, and so yeah,
I just sorry to interrupt. I just love the elevation changes. It's just great.
absolutely, yeah. So and again, it was the Sideways Group 5, Sideways Group 5s, and the oh, sorry, did I have that right? Nope, I didn't have it right. No, we have the yeah, it was Sideways Group 5s, and we had the slotted 3, Group 4s, Group C's. I don't know, because I don't know all these classes that way. But
Like a Group C.
yeah, Group C's. In the end, I came there with my cars not very well tuned, and you can see, like I said, it was that's part of the shame is that I didn't do as well as I had anticipated, substantially behind the rest of the pack and everything. This is yeah, this was the results of the Sideways cars, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there's no shame in that. You learned what doesn't work next time.
Exactly. Well, then we get to so this is another shot of the track again. Saying here. And so when we went to the slotted, and obviously we do 3 heats, one in each of the lanes. And I've gone through my first 2 heats, and the Stephen Farr Jones, the founder of the club, he just took my car and said, wow, this chassis is just too tightened up and everything. And he took his little screwdriver to it and twisted this and twisted that and checked it for about, spent about 2 minutes on it. And he did that for my last heat, right?
Oh, look at how many more laps you got.
That's what I'm talking about. So I would have been competitive. I actually would have been competitive if I had my car tuned properly. So yeah, I mean, it was.
Well, the good news is, Dewan, no one can ever say that you had a screw loose.
So anyway, that's what I have a club quarter. That's it. All right. But it's always a learning experience, and that's what's good about it.
That's great. Now, does the track only run in one direction, or can it run in both? Or
I don't know. No, it's got to be one direction because of the Le Mans start.
oh, Le Mans, right?
Yeah,
Right.
so,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Wow, because it would have been really interesting because it looks like you run up the hill into the bank turn.
Yeah, and yes. And how bad my car was running, it would literally flew off the bank. That's how bad it was. And then when he tuned that car, I didn't come out one single time. I even won the heat. I won the heat that I was in. So it was a world of difference in tuning the car and having the performance come out the way it should be. So.
Oh, good for you. See, it wasn't you. That's like my dates in university. You know, it's not me, it's you.
Okay. All right.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
We go down. We have another at the same track this weekend. We're going to be doing the classics, the Fly 1950s, the 1964 to 71 classics, and then we're doing the Ninkos 1949 to 61 classics. So,
now, have you got your Ninko? Sorry, I was going to say, have you got your Ninko classics ready, or?
The Ninkos are, yeah, I already have two to choose from, and you know they do what they do. It's not a whole lot you can do with those. But the flies, I'm working on 2 flies right now. I got a fly kit. I showed you guys that GT40 fly kit that came in about 2-3 weeks ago. So I'm putting that together and tuning it and things like that. And then I had another Ferrari chassis that had a fly with a Ferrari a fly Ferrari that had a broken chassis, and I got that replacement chassis, and I'm putting that back together. So I should have 3 cars to choose from, and play with those and see which one's going to work the best.
Well, if the rules allow, you should take a look to see what Chris did to his, and maybe
I
that'll help.
thought about it, but no, they're very, very basic, strict rules. You can change I think you put some weight, a little bit of weight, and you can put weight in the ankles for sure. And I think you could shore up the axles a little bit on the flies, and maybe change the tires, but I can't go the rear tires. Can't remember. I have to double check the rules again before we get to that. But it's very, very basic. You can't do all the things that Chris did. I'd love to take his car and put it on the track. It's a fly.
Yeah, really. Oh, that's very cool. And anyone else have some club corner to talk about? No? We can move on to other things perhaps? Okay. Well, one of the things we were sort of discussing before we started recording was just, I guess, the lack of availability of spare parts for a lot of the cars that we have. And we can discuss that for a second, because it is a bit frustrating when you, I guess, either have a part that breaks or that you want to build a car or augment a particular car, and to try and get spares. Although I guess some spares are available sometimes, I guess, on that that auction site. But I guess there are other areas that I guess you can try and purloin them from as well.
Yeah, I got real lucky. Dennis actually chimed in on finding a spare chassis for my that vintage Ferrari fly. So yeah,
So-
I did get the entire chassis.
Let me talk a little about my experience here and the ethics, and maybe you guys can weigh in on this. You guys are long time people. So when I originally bought the Cuda, if you have one of these, you'll notice that it comes with a better pod in there. The new pods have bushings, the motor's better. And so out of boredom, I took that pod out and then I put it into my older SCX with the old motors, the RX 42s. It fits perfectly and it runs. This car was all of a sudden competitive again with Scalextric cars that we run stock. So I messaged Dave Kennedy and I asked him about the pod. Would we ever be able to get the pod just by itself and to upgrade older cars? And he said, don't hold your breath. It's probably not going to happen. And so that's fine. And then somebody in the chat had messaged me privately and said something like, hey, look here for these. And I messaged Dave when I originally got this. This is the part that I got. SCX upgrade RFR42. And if you watch Dave Kennedy's show last Sunday, he talked about this. He talked to the people at SCX and they were surprised to see this. It's not theirs. They don't know where it comes from. But it obviously is the real SCX pod, the real motor, bushings, and it fits in my older SCX cars. So my question here is, like, Dave asked me, like, where did I get it? What he wanted to know more about it. And obviously the packaging is fake, but the part is real. What's the ethics behind this? Like, this is a part that I want. SCX won't sell it to me, but somebody else will sell it to me. But SCX doesn't get, a profit from it. So it's one of those things I'm kind of battling in my head. Like, do I continue to support that kind of effort? Do I just say, here, Dave, here's where I got it. Go send the lawyers to that on them. I don't know. I was just curious, like, what your guys' thoughts are on that.
I think
Kind of like,
Jeremy, is it part that they never released, or is it new old stock by chance?
I don't know. The actual part is real. You see, it's got the little SCX tabs. It doesn't have a running gear in here, but it's got the new bushings that fit, and it's got the actual real motor in there. Oh. And it also has injection molded plastic. I mean, that's the actual plastic. It's not 3D printed or anything. So somehow the person I got this from I don't know if they pulled it out of car, if they're getting it from China, where they're getting it. This packaging that it comes in is not real. I can see some of the font on here is a little fuzzy and it's like a sticker. So I'm assuming somebody quickly threw that in Photoshop, made a sticker. I mean, it looks good enough from here.
Actually, Jeremy, that's a really good point. Is that pod used in any other car other than the CUDA?
Yeah, all the new stuff that the SX comes out with, they're using that new pod and that new motor. But they're not selling just the pod or just the motor.
It's not got self-aligning spherical bushes, I take it.
It's got those, no,
anymore.
it's just got the regular brass bushings, but it's no longer the little round things that snap in. I mean, this has been redesigned, and if you buy one of the CUDAs, the newer CUDAs, it comes with this pod instead of the old style. So anyway, that was my topic of discussion. I just wanted to see what you guys
I
thought
would
about
be-
that. Like,
Going with it not being new, old stock, it's because it's a different configuration. It's a modern configuration.
the modern configuration, SCX is not selling it. I don't think they have any
Jeremy?
plans to. Yeah.
Jeremy, one of the guys here who's been on here in past few chats, Jerry, is importing SCX to some extent, and I'm not sure what the extent is, so I could try to get a hold of him and find out.
I mean, I personally, I don't mind because SCX is never going to sell me this. But at the same time, I don't want to harm a company that's, I mean, the profit margins are so bad in, you know, in slot cars, I assume. So I hate to think that this would be hurting them in any way, but it's something that was broken on my old car, sat there forever, and now I can run it again. So I don't know.
But
I
they're
would
also
think-
they're also supplying something that people will use and need. If the company doesn't want to do it, someone's going to fill that gap.
Yeah, I think that SCX themselves are missing out on an opportunity here. Because there are a lot of the older cars out there with the old RX motors that would benefit from
Exactly.
something like that. So
Exactly.
if it had been me, I would have been out there really quickly to get something like that out there. Now, that being said, if these guys are whoever's selling that thing, if they're finding those parts somewhere that SCX don't know about,
On the
then
production line.
then there's something, it's either it's falling off the production line or off the back of the truck between the production line and the airport or whatever. Then I think that as consumers, we have to worry a little about whether we want to buy it or not. But, you know, if there are no shenanigans going on in terms of the guys getting that stuff and putting it out on the market, then my feeling would be, you know, SCX, you're not, you know, if you're not awake enough to be seeing the market here, we're going to use these parts anyway. I think you've done a great job making sure that they know about it. I just don't know why you had felt the need to go through Dave, because I don't know that he has any official part of SCX anymore.
He doesn't. I just messaged him on Facebook because I know he brought the CUDA to market, and I reached out to him thinking if he helped bring this to market, he might know how to, if their plans are for the pod, and that's where it started. And when he said no, they're not going to make that pod, then I just pretty much gave up until I got a private message. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I agree with Dennis entirely. But the other issue working in a company that we had this issue is people using our trademark and our trademarks. To me, that's totally unethical.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a problem if they branded it as the Clacky Bongo, but fix SCX.
Yeah, and he could very well have done that. SCX, not using their logo, but use just with whatever font and SCX compatible. That would be another issue, another thing entirely. But using and basically branding it as an SCX brand, I have a problem with that.
They clearly took that. I mean, I can tell that photoshopped and it was printed, but that's clearly not commercial level.
But they're trying to pass it off that it is. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah.
Whether or not the part itself is irrelevant at that point, to me, that's just totally unethical.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Who knows? The arrangement might have been from that vendor to actually do the packaging for them, and that's how they got the part.
And that's what we don't know.
Right, exactly.
It could be legit.
Didn't SCX used to offer a pretty comprehensive range of spares like that in the past?
Oh gosh, yeah, like rear axles and a whole bunch of stuff. And Ninco used to, Fly used to, even Scalextrics. You used to be able to buy like front wings for your Ferrari F1s and rear wings and
Well,
stuff. Yeah.
In a lot of cases, you still can. I think the problem very often comes for us as consumers. We go to the retailer looking for spare parts. The retailer can only stock the spare parts that he can get from his distributor, and the distributors don't always know what to order. So you end up with there's a heck of a lot of spares out there. I mean, do you know that Scalextric have like a parts list sheet for every car that they build?
Yeah,
Like,
they
there's
have
a-
an exploded diagram with the
There's a
W.
major database on the Scalextric website that has all these exploded diagrams. It looks like a full-size car parts store where you can go in there and say, okay, if you want the front wheel or the rear axle assembly, it's this number. If you want the motor it's that number. If you want the lighting kit, it's that number. If you want the gear set, it's that number. Blah blah blah. They're all there, but go to the distributor to see if you can get those pieces. If you're in England, maybe you're okay, but other places, maybe not.
I think it's a supply chain issue, but there being so many models, no stockist is willing to stock spares to support cars that they sold. You could end up with a shop full.
I think
Jeremy-
eventually it becomes much easier for the retailer just to convince the customer to buy a new car than to wait for the spares.
Well, the profitability is not there.
Which is silly because normally it's the other way around, that the profitability in the initial model is not that high, but in the spare parts the profit margins are
Yeah,
much bigger.
that's the way.
definitely the
That's
case.
the
Sounds
way
like
the
a real
automotive-
car.
Oh, sorry. That's like a real car, exactly. That's the way the automotive industry works, exactly, yeah.
Oh, and it's true for the Scar. It's true for the slot car. If you try and put a car together from an OEM chassis and then buy the motor and buy the gear and buy the it would cost far more than the car. So it's definitely true. It's just the availability of the parts. It's very difficult, isn't it?
Well, to
It
that
should
point, I
be.
mean, these parts may as well, it might have been even scavenged from existing new cars no one wanted.
Came with a
Jeremy,
box of wontons.
without naming names, did you get this from a retailer or from a private individual?
I better not say, because
Okay.
I'll wait, because I'm sorry.
problem.
It's just,
No
I just don't
problem.
want anybody to get in trouble, but at the same time, I want people that own SCX to realize that they have a market out here. Like, I just spent $25 plus $5 shipping on a part they lost out on, but I've been asking them for 2 years to have it. And, like, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. Like, why
Does
would
it
they
have a
not?
barcode? Does it have a barcode on the
No, there's no
on the
UPC.
part?
No,
Okay.
no.
I was just saying which country it came from, that's all. Well, it came from
Which
the
also
actual-
tells you
well,
that it's not entirely legit.
Yeah.
La Cosa Nostra Slot Car Club, all right.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, but to SCX's defense as well, they're a fairly minor player in a very minor market. And
they've slipped right down the
It may-
ladder.
it may not be worth their time. They may not be able to make enough money in it to bring that into the United States in a regular channel.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's what I was gonna
Well,
say, even the importation regulations for parts versus cars or like finished products are different, aren't they?
Yeah, because the
Can
HO
be.
has the problem too. If it's swallowed by a child, then they have to package it in a different way or something like that. There's some big regulations where they cannot sell parts
Hmm.
unless they package it properly, so it's childproof, and then that costs money, and then it's just not worth it.
Especially if it has a magnet in it.
Oh, yeah. Or a cigarette logo on it. All the 5-year-olds are going out and buying packets of
And
those.
HO, some of the cottage industries could get away with it. The bigger ones like AFX or Auto World, they can't get away with it.
Well, that's actually, Jim, that's a really good point, because I actually saw like new HO cars in the packaging is huge.
Yeah.
Has to give it some kind of presence on the shelf, John, surely.
Yeah,
but
so it's
although-
more
although I
difficult
can-
to steal.
I
Yeah.
guess more difficult, I guess, but to Jim's point about cost, I mean, if you're a manufacturer, you want to keep the packaging as, cost effective as possible.
But like, some of these HO cottage industries, you buy 10 pairs of pickup shoes and they come in a little plastic bag. There's no packaging other than maybe a header card. But somebody that's big and sells to like Hobby Lobby, like Auto World, they have a whole different kind of regulations they have to, or hoops they have to jump through.
Well, the important thing is that that motor pod's out there, and it's only a matter of time before someone makes a 3D printed version of it that's be available that people can use. If not, you can get that one. It'll be out there.
Well, I
A
think
lot of my old
the
pieces.
guy in Greece, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's made a 3D printed one that I bought, and I just don't think right now the 3D printed ones are as good as injected and molded. I mean, this is a legit
Oh, yeah.
one, so
Yeah.
I don't know. All right,
Well,
good to
and-
hear your
I've tried-
opinions.
I've tried a Lexus.
Arguably,
Sorry,
if
Chris.
you're using the SCX motor pod as a pattern for your 3D printed pod, you're essentially doing the same thing anyway.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah.
A Lexus is a printed version,
Yeah,
a little
a
bit
Lexus.
different. I've tried a couple,
Yeah.
but no, they're not quite good enough for what I've wanted.
Yeah. All right. Well, that gives me some information to
Oh,
go on.
the other good thing too is, to Dennis's point, it might wake up some manufacturers to, getting more parts out there for us to keep our cars going.
Well, it might, but do the numbers.
Yeah. no,
Slotted
no.
seems to do pretty well. With, I mean,
So
Slotted.
Okay, well, the shadow there's 950 shadows produced, right? So let's say,
1950,
sorry,
1950.
90.
that's what I said.
I thought you said 950.
1950, sorry.
Right, okay, sorry.
So let's say 10% of those guys may or may not break a rear view mirror off. So that's 190 worldwide. So how excited am I going to get as a manufacturer making 190 mirrors and packaging them up and sending them all over the place?
Yeah, at like $2 a pop or
Good point.
$5 a pop, right?
Right? Like it's just, and Scale Electrics, I mean, most of them now are, they're in the business of selling new cars. They're not interested in selling a spare part for this and spare part for that. And as from a manufacturer, from a retailer's perspective, what do you order? I'm going to order one mirror for this car and one mirror for that car, and it's a nightmare.
Well, and to your point, Chris, I guess the same thing even happens with tires too, right?
Well, no, there's lots of anything that's specific. Your pinion gears are pinion gears, right? So every car needs a pinion gear, and they come in a couple of different sizes and blah, blah, blah. When you're doing mirrors or you're doing, aerials or bits
Oh,
and
I
pieces.
see what you're saying. Unique body parts to an actual car, right?
Yeah, well, even axle sets. So we're going to make a Scale Electrics, and it's going to have white mini lights on it. And we made 2,000 cars. And quite frankly, a lot of the guys are going to throw the plastic wheels away and replace them with aluminum ones. So how many guys actually want a new axle set for an original? Yes, there's value in doing it. From an economic perspective, the value is, from a manufacturer's perspective, next to zero.
Yeah, if Scale Electrics was selling 100,000 pieces of a specific model, there'd be a market for the spare parts.
Well, I mean,
But
when
there's not.
in the 60s, when Cox sold, 1 million of this, and the classic Manta Ray sold 1 million of that and 1 million of this. Now you're talking. Some of these guys are producing 1,500 models worldwide, and we're probably going to look at 10% of them might need spares, which is 150 spares.
It's not worth the packaging and the manpower to put the part in a catalog.
And to your point, Chris, about the 60s, that's why you can still get, in blister pack NOS parts from Monogram, Cox, and a few other manufacturers.
Sure. I bought yesterday funnily enough, a guy came into the store and he had 2 Champion motors still on the card with the wrapper on it. I got a Champion 517 and I got a Champion 26D 607 with the upgraded Arco magnets in it.
Wow.
Holy cow.
$10 for both motors.
Oh,
There you go. Made your day, didn't I?
And now are we back on an ethics discussion here?
What are you talking about?
Did you tell him
It was not counterfeit money. It was real money.
$10 Canadian, and that's real money.
We're talking about the Crimo behind the counter, aren't you, Dennis?
remember what I said about canoes and Canucks, folks?
I don't know if there's a store in the States. But I wonder if some of you have come across the one we have over here, called Green Hills Garage.
Yep.
Where they tear down slot cars, and you can find some really obscure singular components for old slot cars on there. And I've never seen another retailer anywhere that's doing a similar thing. And
There
that's
was a guy up in Alaska at one stage who was decomposing all kinds of slot cars too, and selling bodies separate and chassis separate and pods separate and so on. But I haven't seen him for a while on eBay.
Mhm.
Oh.
when I wanted the deep version or modern version of the round guide for Scalextric. I had a McLaren MP412C, which had had to keep the round guide for the regulations. But on that one, the blade depth was about 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters, can't remember, shorter than the same guide, or what ostensibly was the same guide in the AMG Mercedes. And I hadn't got another one. And I reached out to Green Hills Garage, who managed to supply me with 5 of them. And that was everything they'd got.
Wow. So pick parts for slot cars.
Yeah, there are still guys out there. I guess somebody could make a business out of it. But, you know, the other thing about parts always is there are so many different classes being run by different people in different places that the usage of pieces and the usage of spares will be very different from one area to the next. I mean, you know, Electric Dreams, nobody runs a fly car on the Electric Dreams track. None of the guys down there will give you pennies for fly parts right now. Same with Ninco, because we just don't run them. But in other places, they may still be very much in demand.
Wow, okay.
Horses for causes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That motor pod and motor of yours, Jeremy, that goes across tons and tons of categories. There's also all kinds of stuff coming out of China, from fishing reels to wristwatches to bits and pieces for that look identical and are identical, but you know.
Interestingly, though, if you go to AliExpress, you won't find very many parts for slot cars. If you go and look for Tamiya Mini 4-wheel drive, you'll find a huge aftermarket.
Well, right, and if you look at the size of both relative markets, that explains it.
The thing about Tamiya Mini 4-wheel drive is it's very regional. It's in the eastern, the far eastern countries like Japan, and I don't know where else, to be quite honest. I can't find any activity. I can find a tiny little bit of activity for that kind of toy car in the UK, but I've never seen one. But you go out there and you go out to China, the China shops, AliExpresses and places like that, and you'll find lots and lots of aftermarket wheels, aftermarket tires, tools for working on them, axles, gears, all sorts of stuff. But you just can't find similar stuff for slot cars. And I know that, Jeremy, you've been looking out for axles, gears, bushings and things like that. And you've drawn a blank, have you not?
Yeah, I haven't found anything good. I mean, axles are easy enough to make, but like on these, remember the stiletto that the guy brought in here? Let me see if I like the stiletto chassis he was making.
That's Brian,
Yeah.
that's Brian's work, yeah.
Brian.
Brian, right? Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I can find everything, and then the wheels. I'm 3D printed my own wheels from Garth's files that he had. The only thing I'm having trouble with, in fact, I can find the pinion gears in 0.5 mod or modus. I just can't find spur gears anywhere. But that's okay. I mean, I was just trying to get these as cheap as I can for our Girl Scout club so they could build some and race them. But that's like I said, the bushings and the gears are the only thing that I can't really find that easily.
Well, what about just using a brass tube?
Yeah.
For a bushing?
Yeah, but like it's hard enough for us slot car guys to line that up. We're not all Chris Walker. We don't, we can't. You push that in. I want the girls to assemble this so they can learn a little bit about engineering principles and and so it like the bushings I can just push those in. They fit perfectly, and they snap in. I've got a ton of them. I'll probably wind up just using those, but there's no source for those on AliExpress. And then the cheapest I could find crown gears in 27 tooth is like $5.50 a piece. So, but that's it. Like Professor Motor, their brand. So I'll probably wind up with that. But like motors, you can get all day. Those are like 29 cents for those little 14,000 RPM motors. The girls will be happy with that. But yeah,
Jeremy, have you tried
Yes.
3D printing some bushes?
bushings.
Plastic bushes?
No, I have not. I was just so used to doing brass on everything. I didn't want to. I was
No,
expecting to be able to find those somewhere on it, but maybe
No,
not.
I 3D printed some. I think it's on Inverse that there's a file there for them for Scale X bushings, and I've printed some out, and they seem to work reasonable. I did it in some cheapies for the kids to play with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take a look.
Yeah,
You print them in nylon, Phil?
no, I did some in PETG that because it was on the printer at the time, and it seems to be all right. They were a little bit tight, so I just run a 332 drill through them.
So I did
And
some
once they're in the cap.
I did some spacers in between the wheels on in tough resin, and they held up fine. But then Garth
Yes.
was nice enough to actually put it on the hub. I can't, you can see it a little bit there, but
Yeah, I did some.
Jeremy,
We were talking about the Scale X McLaren. I lost a front wheel off an MC12 and couldn't buy one anywhere. But I just drew that up in Tinkercad and printed some of them out the other day in PLA, and they seem to work all right. I'll reprint them now. I've got them working in.
maybe that's the
PETG.
future of aftermarket parts.
Well, I was
If-
gonna
if
say,
companies put those files out there and say, "Here's your mirror for the McLaren," I'll gladly print those
Yeah.
out for our club. But I mean, if they have the CAD files, that's the hardest part is drawing it up. But if they've already got it out there, man, that would be amazing if somebody ever did that. But
I'd like some
Yeah.
for a McLaren myself. Hello, guys.
Yeah,
yeah, there's the wheel I got from
Garth's
Garth.
wheel, there we go.
Yeah, Phil, early Christmas presents.
But
Yeah.
on
No.
AliExpress, Jeremy. you
yeah,
can
but
get
the
access to
McLaren comes with two different versions of the wheels. One's a 15 spoke, and then there's that version. Mine was a 15 spoke I lost. So yeah, mine now has 16 spoke because it was easier to draw up even numbers.
So I don't know if this is this might be interesting, but for like 20 years of my life, I used to play Games Workshop's Warhammer. It's little figures, and they print you out a model sprue, and you buy that sprue. But if you want, let's just say you want a guy with a different gun, and they only put one gun on the sprue, they expect you to go out and buy another sprue, and you're like, well, I don't need 12 models for that one gun. So guys used to go on and chop up all these sprues and sell those, for $2 a piece, whatever the parts. And Games Workshop sued them out of existence and said no more. But it all moved underground. Then I know a dozen Russian sites that you can go to and you can find whatever you want. And then it got even worse is now everybody's 3D printing all the stuff they want. So if they don't want to sell you that particular gun, you go online and you print it in resin and you're done. Like that's going to kill their business model. But I wonder if slot car manufacturers could see that and go, oh, there's something on the horizon coming. That 3D printing, it was crappy before, but now I'm getting really good results. Like, I'm sure all of you are, but like these wheels are 3D printed from Garth, and Garth's just a guy in his basement, in Michigan, who put these together, shared them, and now anybody can get it. I mean, decent looking, and these fit slotted 15s perfectly. So it's like there's something coming. I hope other manufacturers take notice of that.
Well, there's several men, I've talked to a couple already that are really concerned. It's people are 3D printing chassis. 3D printing this, 3D printing that. It will have an effect on the in a small market today. It will become smaller. So it's
And the
You're saying about 3D printing, Jeremy. I mean, that's just come off my printer.
A camera.
iPod.
Yeah,
I mean, I
there's-
couldn't, we couldn't cast that in resin very well, could we, John? It'd be a hell of a job.
Yeah, that would be a challenge. It could be done, but it would be a challenge.
Yeah. And I did the same with some vintage type cameras that I wanted.
Right? Yeah. Oh, that
Got the
looks,
file and played around with them to suit
Oh, that
60
looks
style
great.
cameras,
that looks great.
different lenses on them. I think that's a TK40 camera.
TK14. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you stick that on a car, Phil?
Yeah, for sure. But the picture's crap. The biggest problem, Wayne, it adds weight to the car, mate.
You know that. It didn't stop them back in the 60s, did it?
No.
Wayne, I was waiting for you to ask just how much those
How
wheels
much do they
weigh.
actually weigh? Yeah.
Hey, God, it's a tough crowd, this, isn't it?
Oh, come on. It's like any good locker room. If you're not taking the piss out of somebody, they're not a buddy. So, that's the way.
I have worlds of admiration for Wayne and how much of it he's taken from us over the years.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but we listen to him.
I was gonna say, we still
You'll
have
bottle
quite
it, you'll bottle it
quite
up.
the credit of about 50 minutes or so, don't we?
You'll bottle it up and sell it back to us one day.
What happened to, remember Scale Electric was making all of their wheels like a standard 15 or 17 style with slotted? Are they still doing that, or have they gone away from that? Anybody know?
They seem to be all different now, Jeremy. I haven't got
Okay.
much in the way of Scalex, but some of their wheels are weird sizes. They're Falcon XB and XC have got very oddball sizes on them. Yeah, because we struggled to get tires for them at one stage, as Gazza will know. Yeah.
Where they can, Jeremy, they're doing it. Like if the real car's got a 15-inch wheel or a 17-inch wheel, they'll incorporate a standard rib width. But they come out with a weird car that's got a weird size wheel and tire, and you really can't put 17-inch wheels on a Mini or something like that. So you got to do what you do.
Yeah, I remember the Javelin had like a Scale Electric or slotted style 15, I think. But
Yeah.
then when I got the CUDA, I think it had something weird. It was like a taller tire.
Well, there was never any standardization of the profile that locks the tire onto the rim, and that's the big deal, right? The width and the height of that center rib around the middle of the wheel that holds the tire in position. If that had been standardized somewhere to 2 or 3 different sizes, right? Because obviously the narrower you go, the narrower that center rib has to be. But you don't have to have a 7 millimeter wide center rib on a 10 millimeter wide rim. Yeah, you could stop at like 5 millimeters or whatever, and then everybody has 5 millimeter ones, and it would have made a difference. But and the height of that center rib also. I mean, most of them are 1 or 1.2 millimeters nowadays, but a lot of the Carrera stuff is like 2 millimeters high, and so none of the regular tires fit it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Carrera has a lot of different tires.
It's
for a
like
lot of their
every
cars.
time they make a new car, it's a different wheel.
They've
And-
got the
and they've got a
two-piece wheels
divot
with the
cut out of
inside
each wheel.
shoulder.
Okay,
Like the
then
rib,
they-
the rib goes around it, but then all of a sudden it's like a half moon cut out of it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Well,
or
you
they've got
saved
all
12
those
cents.
grooves across. They've got grooves across the wheel, so that it down the track.
Right.
And the two-piece
guess-
wheel where the inside shoulder is different size than the outside shoulder.
Yes,
Oh,
that's happened
yeah.
to Scale Electric
Yes.
too. The Javelin.
And on the Carreras at one point, it was only the tire that was holding the two parts of the rim together anyway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they had a few rims like that, didn't they?
Yeah, because of where they put the stub axle that they were using to put in.
Yep, oh yeah, that's right. Wow.
There is some really horrible engineering in slot cars, I tell you.
Yeah, there is. Like, I thought when they'd standardize those wheels like that, I thought, well, this is gonna make a difference because I can buy one set of, silicone that's gonna fit. And then the very next car I bought was like, nope, it will not fit. So
Right.
I mean,
One section
tires
that's-
are a problem anyway, because you've got not only width and diameter, but you've got aspect ratio to worry about. So, and full-size cars have a massive range of those things. But, there's always going to be some kind of problem. But if they could have at least standardized on the way in which the
rib
tire is mounted on the wheel, it would have helped us.
You've got two sections, one's building it to go on the track and the other one's to go on a shelf. So it looks
Yeah.
good.
Well, that's a good point. Like, yeah, I guess the other one's for like the Christmas morning, right? Right, Gary? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Well, and then there's, guys like us who Christmas morning became a lifetime of fun.
So with everybody seeing
So
the
you-
Mario movie, does everybody have like slot cars from Mario Kart? Or is that just me? No, it's just me. So anyway, this is the perfect way to introduce kids to slot car racing. I don't care what you guys say. It's not for you, obviously, but is it Carrera? I think it's Carrera that makes these. They really need to do some work on this, because when you take these cars out, like you'll notice these two cars look the same. They're kind of the same body, same motor, everything. But then they also wind up selling you a different car. It's not the same. The motor and gearing is not the same. So once the kid realizes, oh, this car is not fast anymore, this never gets driven again, and then I don't buy anymore because I'm only going to buy the cars that are competitive with each other. So when they came out with these are called standard carts. These are like in the game. But then they came out with these guys, and I don't know if you can see, but they're much smaller. And then the engine, the motor got even smaller, and the gears got even smaller. This thing is terrible. Like it's just a mess. So like Carrera, I know they're probably not watching, but if you're gonna make one car, put every character on top of here, and then don't just make them much smaller for no reason, because it throws me off when I'm trying to buy this junk. So
Jeremy, are those all supposed to be 132nd or are they 143rd?
no, they're 143rd, but what I do is, since I have Scale Electric Track, you can thin down the guide a little with a little Dremel, thin it down, and then boom, it's perfect. It runs on my 132nd scale track, no problem. And the kids love them. That's the easiest way. When they see that on the track, they all just want to jump in and play. But once like I can't even bring this car out. I can't bring when you bring this one out, this one does laps around the rest of them. But it just annoys me to no end that they're actually making this car, and then they're making a smaller version of it and selling it the same price and the same thing. I assume they save some money on this one, but stop doing that is all I'm saying. And then I know they're not listening, but when you have this car and this body, every character in the game can drive this car. Every character can drive it. So instead of molding the guy into the seat, and all you gotta do is make that so this guy pops out of here, and I'll put my own guy in here, because they only sell you like Mario and maybe one princess and one bad guy. There's no variety. There's 58 different characters in the game, but they're not selling any of them, so I don't know. It's just, this is my rant. I'm done. But Carrera, you're annoying me. Stop it.
Well, again, there's
you're not
another,
done. That's the problem.
Jeremy, there's another opportunity for 3D printing.
I didn't want to say that, but yes, that is very true.
I have
Well,
I have
instead
undergone
of-
a similar process, Jeremy, because we got one a few years ago as a Christmas gift.
Yeah.
Our little one, 143rd Carrera set, battery operated. It contained
Yes.
Lightning McQueen from Cars and the Italian Formula One car, red,
Yeah,
white.
that's Bernzoli. Yeah.
Okay, so guess which car always win the races?
Which one?
The wrong one.
Oh. Okay. So I
No
bought
matter
that
which-
kit.
No matter which lane you put which car on,
Yeah.
the car that should win, Lightning never does.
Lightning McQueen never does.
It's just top heavy and heavy.
And the other problem with that set, I bought that set for we babysit a young man, and he loves slot cars now. So we bought that set for him, and you put batteries in it, and here's your trigger. You get a thumb button, and it's either stop, nothing, 100% power. It's like he couldn't drive it, and I was like, why are you putting this product out there that kids get? He drove it once, and I don't think he's touched it again. So I was like, you're really shooting yourself in the foot with this cheap. It doesn't have to be a high-end controller, but I at least need some range to slow down in the turn. But I literally kid you not, it was like 0 to 100, and that was it. So
Carrera have these different ranges now, apart from their 20-volt scale stuff and their 30-second scale stuff. Then they have Carrera Go, which is
That's what it
1/43rd.
was. That's what.
And
mine
then they
was.
have this Carrera First, which is 1/50th scale.
don't need that.
I think Dennis muted himself accidentally.
Dennis, you muted yourself.
You're offline, Dennis.
Probably
it.
back on now. Sorry.
Yeah, you said they had like a 1/50th scale or something.
They have a 1/50th scale thing too. I've just been looking at it on the website, and I just can't work out. And it's battery operated rather than off out of the wall, and so that's probably where you're finding the difference in size.
The Go is battery operated, or mine is.
Yeah. So the only thing like I could do is like somebody bought me 2 of these. I don't remember. Like one of my daughters got an extra one. So then I just wound up painting it and calling it the bad guy. There's like supposed to be a bad guy of this guy. So you can't really do much with them if they're not going to sell me the part. This gets back into piracy, I guess. They're not going to sell me the part. I guess I'm going to have to 3D print my own and make my own.
Well, to your point though, from their perspective, they may have had to pay more licensing fees for more characters and they didn't want to do it.
Yeah, maybe. That's quite possibly. And I'm sure that each time they sell a Mario Kart set, it probably has to have Mario in it. Like they you know what I mean? They probably have to have lead character in it. But it's like they keep coming out with, there's like 12 different versions of Mario. And my kids are like, I'm done with Mario. Give me somebody else. But they're not gonna. So. Oh well, learn from their mistakes, people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but you've got to wonder with their logic though, because they would have spent a fortune getting the licensing to manufacture that for Hasbro so that they could use their product.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the guys that were organizing that would have thought, well, okay, we'll introduce extra amount of extra figures in there to keep boosting our sales of their product. But no, it's just, oh yeah, we're happy with 2. That'll do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It's crazy.
Sorry, Gary, you're thinking like a marketer. It won't work.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, it's just been frustrating over the years with all these sort of mobs all do this. They start with something and you wait for this particular product to come out that you know is in that line, and it never eventuates. Oh, no. We did research and found that only 3 people really wanted that. And you were one of them. So yeah, sorry.
Now I found out that you can slim the guide peg and get that to run on Scale Electric. That's something I think I'm going to have to do.
Wayne, do that. The kids love it. And then I bought the replacements for the guide because it's just like a straight pin. I bought those on AliExpress. I know somebody did sell those guide pins, and you just trim like a little, just to shave a little bit off. I mean, you can almost do it with the Dremel or
Obviously,
with the
I don't think we've ever had both tracks set up at the same time. But now, because they're not slow, because they're only running on 3 volts.
Yeah. You got to turn the voltage down to like 10. But once you have a regular controller, their cars are fun to drive. It's just that stupid plunger is a disaster. All right.
But the silly part is they make Carrera makes controllers and all that for their 30-second stuff, which will work. I don't have any, but I'm assuming they work fine. So why not?
So. Just throw that in the box.
Bring them in.
Yeah.
That fine is preceded by sort of.
I'm sure that adds to the cost, though. I mean, they're just using little cheap DC contact patches or something. I don't know.
Well, probably the work experience person they had there that weekend that was doing all the supplying and organizing all that just thought, oh yeah, this will do.
Yeah, that'll do.
It's within arm length of where he was sitting there to pick it up and put it in the box. So yeah, that'll do that one.
But it just seems weird to me. Like I preach this hobby to all the kids around, and I can't sell this product to them anymore. I can't go out and tell a kid, yeah, go buy this for, or a parent, go buy this for your kid, because it's just not a good product. So it's a shame that they're doing that.
See, that's why when my daughter was your child's age, Jeremy, I demanded she drive a Lotus 49.
May not have been the best choice for a first car, John, but you You do you.
Oh, it's a good class for John to keep his collection up.
Exactly. Yeah, that just allowed me to buy more of them.
Yeah.
That's good. But no, that's a point well taken, because yeah, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to turn somebody off something, does it?
Yeah, right. It's hard to get
No.
somebody into it, but one thing like that, and you're done. So,
Right. Yep. No,
Oh,
I,
well.
yeah, I agree. And as far as, yeah, Carrera controllers, although they're not great for the, exclusive or, but it's got to be better than what you were describing.
yeah, if you ever get one, pick one up just to test it. It's a nightmare. Even the old Scalextric controllers that I used to have from 20 years ago, they work. They don't just go on 0 to nothing.
Yeah.
Or 0 to 100. But oh well. I guess they save some money.
That's the, I think if I'm not mistaken, the original Scalextric with thumb plungers. I got some thumb plunger ones from the 1960s in my first Scalextric. So I don't know when they first did a figure trim, but they were. I still got those, and they were fine.
Oh,
They
well,
were.
Wayne, the very first Scalextric sets had an on-off button.
Switch. Yeah, I
On
saw
off button, yeah.
Jackie Stewart driving with a switch. Exactly.
No, that was Sterling Moss.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sterling Moss and his
Yeah.
then wife.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, had the little finger pushing in the
Yeah.
video.
And-
Very
and-
aggro, Sterling.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, she beat him so many times he divorced her.
Yeah. Understandable.
And the
I retro-
VIP sets
I-
came with, it looked like a doorbell button.
Yeah,
Was-
exactly.
yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Was that the
We
first
use-
step controller? How fast you can push it on and off?
It's about the only
Here's
thing.
an old. here's an
Only
old
the
MO.
only
hard, weren't they,
modulation you
Dennis?
had was how fast you could push it.
We used fridge
Here's
door
an old-
switches at one stage on the original track that I first learned on, and we used to have to solder the top of them over and cut the bottom out because they worked the wrong way around. But they were ideal. And put them in a bit of tube.
Recycling an old MRRC throttle.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
nice, yeah.
That's a nice, yeah.
And-
Well,
and
even the
it's a
old
good job.
Cox thumb controllers they're actually quite nice.
Still use it.
Oh, come on, Gazza, that's a late model MRRC. The original ones
Oh,
were
yeah, well,
blooming round.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
I've
that's
got in there,
that's the second version of them.
Yeah.
They either that way or the old go the finger.
And that MRRC that Gary's got there, that one is actually a nicer controller than the Cox version of it, even though
Yeah.
they look almost identical.
Yeah, it fits nice in the hand.
The
Actually.
the
Quite-
movement of the plunger on that controller was much better than the
Yeah.
regular Cox one, because there was a little less play on it, and it had a little fiber washer around the top end of the casing, and you could impregnate
Yeah.
that with a little bit of oil, and they were really nice and smooth. And then
Yeah.
you would put some kind of a strap that went around your hand, so that you could open your hand up while you were driving and still press it with your thumb. When the resistor got so damn hot that you couldn't hold the controller anymore.
Yeah, Phil's gone
Oh.
off to get the original one. So
Maybe it's that smell actually that got us all hooked. I mean, I can remember that smell.
Oh God, yeah, controllers and end bells, both of them.
Yeah, and bubbling flesh at the same time. Yeah.
But I mean, that whole resistor controller thing, and the fact that we all started with a thumb led to some of the most ingenious or some of the most Rube Goldberg inventions you've ever seen in your life when it came to controllers.
adaptations. Oh,
Yeah, with guys that used to make these things that were
And on the
way
little
long,
glove.
that you were pressing the button up here, and then down here somewhere there was another piece with a resistor, and there was all these little bits that worked up and down, all made out of plexiglass or made out of hardboard or something like that. Some real weird stuff out there.
If you stood next to him while he's racing, you'd end up with an afro.
Yeah.
I'll show you this while we're talking about controllers.
Well, there you go. That's exactly what you were describing, Dennis.
Very similar, but that's one of the
This is
things you want to do.
electronic.
Yeah, is it an SCD?
No, it's a Hopwood controller made in Sydney.
Ah.
About 1966, I think, or something.
Phil, I gotta
Yeah.
ask, is that a bicycle handle grip?
That's what I was gonna
That's a-
ask.
That's a
Good win.
bicycle handle grip, John.
Yeah,
It looks
Probably even got a
suspiciously
brand
like
on it.
something else.
It looks
Yeah.
like something you would have to go into a shop covering your face and get it in a paper bag.
Yeah. Specialist store.
They'll mail it to
Yeah.
you unlabeled. It's fine.
Pardon?
They mail those out with no label on them. It's fine.
Yeah, but
Not
that
to
was made
embarrass
in
you.
Sydney by Hopwood Electronics, and
No,
they were originally designed for commercial tracks. But they've got no brakes on them, so I've got a couple of them, and the other one this one I'm going to restore, and the other one I'm going to put brakes on it and see how it
and,
goes.
and that's transistorized, right?
That's transistorized. It's one of the early
Okay.
transistor
So
controllers.
somewhere inside there is still some sort of wiper across a resistor to drive the transistor.
Yeah, there's a long resistor in them, Dennis, about that long with a wiper on it. So it's just a
Okay.
conventional wire wound resistor inside there, and it's got a wiper that rubs up and down on the resistor. Yeah.
Okay.
As like MRRC or anything at that time
Yeah,
period.
except that of course because it's driving the transistor rather than the car, it doesn't start.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah.
biggest problem with them, a few of the guys brought them and wondered why their cars went slower because it doesn't have a full speed contact on it. So you're losing 0.9 of a volt every time.
Oh dear. Okay.
Well, that's almost as Rube Goldberg as the Revell controller, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and apparently the working bits of this, they sort of scavenged from points in a distributor for automobiles. That's
Up
the-
cycle.
Quite possible.
yeah.
And then there was that classic controller made by Classic. It was a little green box, and it had this flexible cable with a handle and a little button on the end of the flexible cable that mechanically operated these wipers inside the big green box. All the weird things that they did to try and get the heat out of your hand.
And yeah.
What
It
did
looked like a
what
bicycle
changed
brake
to the
cable there.
trigger?
That was Ruskit really that did
Rust
that.
kit.
Yeah.
That's where the big change came. Ruskit went to the change to the trigger controller.
Now, did
And
they
they-
follow like you guys? Like, were you guys already switching like your controllers around and making your own jigs and stuff?
There
or did
were
they just come up
some-
with it on their own?
No, there were some that were already that way. I mean, you'll find some out there that came from Ram Engineering and a couple of other places
Yeah.
that looked like the one that Phil had with a bicycle handlebar grip,
Handle on it, the
And-
Ram one
and
did,
then-
didn't it?
and then just a little button or thumb operated or finger operated little lever that would wipe across a resistor, and then the resistor obviously was outside of your hand, and that's where that started.
Well,
And
K&B
then
also had one that was a handle, but you used your thumb and not your index finger.
yeah, they did indeed. Big
Yeah.
blue thing, as I recall.
You know,
I'm gonna see if I
with your
can
with controllers getting warm as they do, like when you race for a long time, has anybody ever come up with a sleeve to put over there? So, because my hand always gets sweaty when I hold that plastic for too long. Or should I just take an old sock and make my own?
No, there are grips available for that.
Are there? Okay.
Tennis racket handle wraps.
Yeah, ET grips or something they're called.
Oh my God, look at that.
That's well
Everything-
found, Jim. Yeah.
He got to it ahead of me.
Oh,
Yeah.
He showed a butt. It had like
Yeah, I
a
just
finger butt.
Found that on eBay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Use it for your next race, Jim.
$20. It's gonna go with Chris's motors.
There you
Oh,
go.
What's that one, Dennis?
That's one that just like the one that Jim was showing.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
it's a Ram.
I'm sure that one makes sheep really nervous.
And the thing about it, if you were a thumb operated guy, you would use it that way. If you were a finger operated guy, you'd use it this. Oh God. You'd use it like that.
Apart from the, yeah,
There you
This
go.
this particular one's even crazier because it has a separate micro switch on the end of another piece of cable for hand operated brakes.
yeah,
So even though
Morse
even
code.
though there's brake connections on the controller, if you wanted the brakes quicker, you could just squeeze that. The real funny part about it is that all the places where you put your fingers, the guys just sold it pennies on there. It's all copper pennies,
The pennies might be worth more than the controllers.
probably by now. And then here's the I'm just carrying my computer around, but this is the what's his name that I was talking about.
Oh, that's the one with
The
the cable
plastic.
control. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
this green box, right, with this long cable and just this little handle in it, right? And then as you press that, you can move the wiper inside there, and it's switchable. It can be switched between a 15 ohm controller or a 25 ohm controller.
Nice.
Get all the way here.
It's fun.
Okay.
Never saw that before.
The problem is that the brakes are very, very unpredictable.
It had to have been a huge shift in like clubs and stuff when everybody has been racing thumbs, and then the one guy brings in and once he starts winning, I assume then everybody goes, oh, maybe we should switch too.
Yeah,
Because I don't see nobody makes thumb controllers anymore, so obviously.
apart from
True.
Carrera.
Carrera.
But I'm saying for like high-end controllers, there's
Yeah.
nobody making a thumb high-end controller. So
There's
I
a
guess
real,
that just kind of died
there's a
out.
real MRC.
That's the
Yeah, I
original
had-
MRRC controller.
Yeah, I had one of those when I was a kid, but it didn't have a label on it.
Yeah.
It was like a no-brainer.
Tradeship had ones like that.
Were they gray?
I can remember one of our local guys using one up until a few years ago. Unfortunately, he's not on today. He seems to have disappeared. I won't say who it is, but he
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's quite a familiar name. Yeah. That's what's called it. This is a tower stack here.
Hey,
I've
Dennis,
got,
do you have an
collection,
Atlas?
Dennis.
Do you have an Atlas one? That looked like a thumb?
I don't have an Atlas one now. I got a bunch of controllers. You probably see them here.
those tower stats were pretty popular in the day.
Yeah, they were very smooth and quite
Yeah.
reliable, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, what I guess you're right, Dennis. Everyone was trying to innovate for, I guess obvious reasons of heat.
And then Rusket realized that, let's put the resistor on the outside, and that you don't have to have it held inside your palm. The problem was, of course, that they used a metal trigger. And so to start with, in any long race, you used to have a lot of trouble with the trigger getting hot, until eventually a young immigrant by the name of Philippe de L'Espinay redesigned the controller and worked with Palmer to make the turbo, which was the different version, which had a big aluminum base plate inside to work as a heat sink, and a molded nylon trigger, and the rest is history.
Hard to believe that Rusket based controller is really still the basis for a lot of the modern controllers, Dennis, after all these years. I mean, nearly everyone uses Palmer style handles.
Dennis, you're muted. You're muted again. Sorry.
Still the most comfortable handle as
Sorry.
far as I'm concerned.
Oh, it is, Chris. All the ones I build, I still use Palmer handles here.
I think that there's a new game in town when it comes to those handles, and that's the new DeFalco handle.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a little better than the old Palmers, but
Yeah.
there've been a lot of different ones, different handles, because once Palmer were making those, the next one that came along was Slotworks, and Trinity, and the
Slotworks, Trinity, and Professor Motor, all the one, aren't they?
all the same tooling.
Yeah.
I remember when I got as a kid, the day I got my MRC Very Power controller.
Yes. Yeah.
That was just, man, I thought I was the king of the world when I got that.
Holy cow, $4? That was a lot of money then.
Yeah.
Wow, considering you could get a model kit for like, you know, what?
Gary, you know we're looking
9
at the
cents.
folder and not the actual pictures, don't you?
Is that up there now?
No, we're just looking at the folder.
Only your
with
Yeah, would you
folder.
see the, would you see the
the
folder?
icons.
We can see the thumbnails.
Oh, hang on. I'll try again. I'll get this one day.
That's okay. It was just fun comparing though. That was a great way to display it.
That it? Yes, no?
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
that's
Yeah,
the
there's the
RAM.
RAM. Yeah, yeah. Okay, RAM.
Yep. Where are we? Okay.
What's the
Hit
next
the
one?
arrow
We
button. Arrow right,
got-
arrow left.
I'll go
On the
left.
keyboard.
There we go. There we
There's
go.
your
Well,
other
the
one.
classic one. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
So that's the one that.
Yeah, there's your
showed-
$4 one.
There, yeah, my goodness.
that's the Rusky.
What year was that?
1960.
Does it say?
1969, 69, right?
Yeah,
And that
Yeah.
one is the later one because it had the plastic trigger.
yeah.
This one was ridiculous. $12.95.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's still being used by the military in combat though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Stern Electronics of Los Angeles, the Positrol HC100. It's got a very impressive name.
Yeah, well, something tells me that industrial designer is still looking for work.
Just a project box, isn't it?
Okay.
Fastest
That's
thumb in the
KMD, yeah,
wax.
yeah.
You have it on your hip too. Look at that. Straight out of the holster.
Yeah, you don't want to know where it's plugged in.
I think that's it. Yeah. You're going all through it
That-
again.
$4 controller in
Nice.
1969 is $32.90 today, American dollars. That's
Oh,
right.
that's not- yeah,
That's not crazy.
okay. Yeah.
Good, the electronic ones I've got here were well ahead of their time then when you look at them, transistor ones.
I remember us building transistor controllers, one-offs back in the
Yeah.
mid-70s.
Yeah,
But when we were running Group 20s and things like that, we were still struggling to get components that would handle the current.
yeah, big enough transistors, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't get MOSFETs and things in those days.
No,
And
3055s were about the biggest you could get at that time.
Everyone here would be relatively familiar with the modern RC car controller, which is basically a trigger with a steering wheel on it. But they have a variable brake insofar as when you push the trigger away, you can go half your brakes, all your brakes, or any number in between 0 and 100%. Why has no one yet produced a slot car controller where you push the trigger away because there's a shield around the backside of a finger that allows you to use variable brakes? Because
I don't
they
think
do
any
it
of
in
us have the
RC.
reflexes for that.
Sorry, Jim?
I don't think anybody has the reflexes for that,
They
considering
do
how
it
fast
in
slot cars
RC.
go.
You know they do.
Well, it's the same
Well,
as
yeah.
that. Slotted controllers come with a handbrake on it. Who can take their finger off the throttle or the second finger to press that at the right time and
Yeah,
have brakes incorporated in there.
I guess you could take an SCP and turn the knob in between corners.
Oh,
Maybe you
Leon,
could. I
still
don't
on
think I
throttle?
could.
yeah.
Actually,
Still on
I
controls,
can't
are we?
because I've got my thumb, I've got my left hand occupied with the lane changer. But if you're using one in an analog config, you could probably change the brakes between, I don't know, let's say you've got a long straight into a tight corner,
yeah,
got an infield that needs flow. You could easily
Yeah.
switch for the infield versus the big stop at the end of the, if you've got that kind of layout.
But Wayne,
that's
correct-
interesting. Go on, Jim.
I was gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong though, but if you're RC racing, it's more like a real car, so you'd want to sort of vary your brake and rotate the
Yeah.
car more. Whereas, you know, with a slot car, it's the guide in the slot that really steers it.
One of our young guys down here, who's an RC racer as well, Adrian, I notice quite often he drives on my track in particular, and he's varying the brakes at the end of the main straight on my track, turns the brakes up and then turns it back to the slower parts of the track. Yeah,
There you go, Phil.
yeah. But he's a lot younger than I am, and his reflexes are a lot better.
I saw an old vintage Carrera video recently. I forgot it was featured on one of the sites that had some of the smaller scale, I want to say 1/43rd scale Carrera tracks. They were using the controller with the steering wheel on it and changing lanes. It was like digital. They were interchanging lanes just left and right with no guides, no slots rather. I've never. It's like it was before its time. Digital lane change. Anybody familiar with that or remember seeing that?
I remember TCR.
Yeah, I saw that. But it looks a
Total
little-
no control racing.
We're
Yeah,
not talking about Anki Overdrive, are we?
There's a faction of people that do that. They're on YouTube. And I think it's a magnetic rail. There's 2 magnetic rails, one for each lane. So the car is steered by the magnets until you change lanes. The front wheels have enough gripping power that they can flip it from one lane to the other.
Okay. This is the thing invented by Wes Rayner, isn't it? Wes Rayner, formerly of Marday Racing, RC car racer.
this was done in the 60s.
Was it?
Yes.
Wow.
There were
well,
lots of
I-
things
I-
done in the 60s.
This is a demonstration.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
you're-
say that we're just about out of time here, folks.
Yeah,
We can
the 2-hour
continue this.
mark,
Yeah, that's it. We afterwards, but thank you,
Yeah.
Jim.
It's basically an RC car, but the car travels on the magnet holds it in the lane.
It's
And
a,
then you,
yeah,
you can change lanes with your steering wheel. So it's like an RC car that's guided, so to speak. Let me see if I can.
Of how a racing line works.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I was speaking of. This is
Racing.
Yeah.
This is Wes Rayner's voice.
Left at top, left again, and right.
So you're not you're changing lanes. You're not technically steering the car. So, but I guess it just never caught on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't there another one that had another car, a mother car, if you like, underneath the track? It was in like a 2-tier thing, and it ran underneath there, and the
Double
other one had the
decker.
magnet. Yeah, had a magnet pulling it down, and you steered the bottom car, not the top car, for some reason.
there's some weird things.
Wow.
And there was used the SK Electric too.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess that would be popular down under. Okay, and on that note.
Ah.
All right,
Goodbye,
we're
John.
That's a good point to stop the
Where's the
recording.
cheese?
All right, everyone wave bye-bye. We'll see you next week, folks.
Have a good
Bye.
one, guys.
All right.
The other thing about that clip